In the world of Jujutsu Kaisen, there exists a plethora of cursed spirits, but not all cursed spirits are created equally, and some are more deadly than others, and that makes for one of the more fascinating aspects in the series with a wide range of cursed spirits that we get. However, like most fans in the series, I have my own personal favorite cursed spirits, and those are going to be the special grade cursed spirits, which is why in today's video, I'm going to go over every major cursed spirit that exists and is actually relevant in Jujutsu Kaisen before you go into season 2 of the anime. So if you're an anime only fan of Jujutsu Kaisen, I will warn you that there are going to be spoilers for season 2 depending on when you watch this video. So now that's not to say that any cursed spirit I leave out of the video is going to be weak. That's far from it. They're a special grade cursed spirit, which means that they are extremely powerful. Don't get that twisted. That's not like saying that they're a grade 4 cursed spirit that can be taken out with a baseball bat or a simple hammer, and they're significantly stronger than, say, a first grade cursed spirit that will require the force of a military tank, and even then that's not enough to actually stop it. So when you look at special grade curses, they're OP enough that you need carpet bombs just to even hope to be able to destroy them. So they can withstand quite a bit of destructive force, and they require a good bit of destructive force to actually take them down. However, not all cursed spirits are the same, and a great way to look at it is the fact that nobody's going to look at Mahito and say that he's just as strong as, say, the Fingerbearer that we saw in the early Jujutsu Kaisen story when Yuji and Megumi briefly teamed up. However, since it was one of the first cursed spirits that we saw, I'm going to touch on the Fingerbearer very briefly in the video. So with the Fingerbearer, what makes them so interesting is that they're cursed spirits that have consumed Sukuna's fingers. Just from eating one of the fingers, they get a pretty nasty power amp that makes them a real headache to deal with, in particular because by eating Sukuna's fingers, they're able to use incomplete domain. They possess intelligence, they got a nasty penchant for being super cruel, and they're at the point where they'll toy around with whoever their opponent is instead of just outright killing them. Similar to regular cursed spirits, the Fingerbearers can often be found near the spot of their original creation. However, even though they're fully considered to be pretty overpowered, their power doesn't even come close to registering to some of the cursed spirits that we're going to talk about here today, which is why I'm not as impressed with them. To be honest with you, it's a pretty lame cursed spirit. Right there at the bottom of the barrel with the smallpox deity that fought Mei in the Shibuya incident arc, which even though it can use a proper domain expansion, the smallpox deity is still lame. But once again, since the Fingerbearer is one of the first cursed spirits we're introduced to, I kind of had to throw a bone in there and talk about it in the video. So obviously, if you clicked on this video, you want to learn more about the cursed spirits that we saw alongside Gito in season 1 of the anime. You got the cursed spirit Jogo, who fought against Gojo and was on the receiving end of that iconic scene. You know the one, where Gojo uses domain expansion and just flexed on this man. Now, Jogo's hatred for humans, it runs about as hot as the temperature of his disaster flames, which are those miniature volcanoes that he's able to create and control the fire and lava that comes out of them. While he might look like a simpleton and idiot, the fact is that he's one of the strongest cursed spirits that you saw in season 1 of the anime, with Geto even stating that on the high end, he might be equal to 9 of Sukuna's fingers, which, just to note, that is very, very generous, because don't get it mistaken, he is far from being anywhere close to Sukuna in terms of power. Even Sukuna, who hadn't even reached his full strength yet, because in the Shibuya incident arc, Sukuna made light work out of Jogo when they fought. Even though Sukuna made him look like fodder, much in the same way that Gojo did, make no mistake, he's a pretty deadly opponent to face in battle. The ability to make and control volcanoes within a set distance, the ability to create exploding insects, the ability to go full scale Big Daddy Marucci and drop a flaming meteor on top of somebody. Jogo is not anybody you should consider to be weak. Even though that flaming meteor he created wasn't enough to take down Sukuna, to be fair, he was fighting against Sukuna, the king of all curses. Now, his domain expansion sucks the enemy into a giant volcano where, while they're inside the domain expansion, all the lava and the molten rock that's around them is all under his control. It makes him a pretty tough opponent to deal with. It just doesn't seem as impressive to a lot of people because he had the unfortunate problem of facing Gojo in a fight when we first saw it getting used, which goes back to the fact that Gojo, Sukuna, Yuta, they're just characters in Jujutsu Kaisen who are so overpowered they make even the strongest of characters look like fodder. Now, for anyone who's watching this video, when season 2 is out, you'll likely want to learn more about Mahito, because this is that one character who is probably very easily the most hated character by a lot of anime fans by the time you're seeing this, because he's killed off quite a few fan favorite characters, from Hanami to potentially Nobara, who, as of this recording, we don't know if she's fully recovered yet from that life-threatening injury that she sustained that left her with incredibly low odds of being able to survive. Mahito is pretty much a sadist in every definition of the word. Maito is someone who gets off on human suffering and is obsessed with the torment that he can cause, and he has no problem experimenting on human beings. Those are aspects of his character that are some of my personal favorites, even though he's written in a way to where he's creepy and you're not really supposed to like him. I just can't help it, especially in the anime with him having the perfect voice actor in Japanese who can bring out that sheer mayhem and that sadism in his character. His idol transfiguration allows him to reshape the souls of people, and it's equally as creepy as it is pretty useful. He's able to manipulate the bodies of his victims, but he's also able to transform his appendages into weapons. He's able to heal his own wounds, and being honest, the usage of this ability is only as limitless as the imagination of the user. He's even shown the ability to make clones of himself that he can use idol transfiguration with. However, just like one of my favorite Naruto characters, the mad petal snake Orochimaru, Maito has a bit of a sick and twisted side to him. That's really why I love him. He will also use all of his power to experiment on humans whenever he's given the opportunity. He's turned people into husks, he's shrank them down, and he's reshaped their bodies into objects that are physically super unnatural for human beings. This brings back to why I use the word sadist to describe him. Everyone who Maito uses this power on, they're alive when he does so. So for instance, if he transforms somebody into a freaking bridge or a seat, a chair, a couch, or whatever in the world he did, they're alive the entire time. Sticking with the Orochimaru comparison, Orochimaru once said that he was like the person, to paraphrase, who put blue and green together just to see what color it would make. Well, Maito pretty much does the same thing when it comes to souls. He isn't above merging souls just to see the outcome. Maito also has the ability to increase the energy of a soul and direct the entirety of it at whatever opponent that he's fighting. He's also got the ability to make a transfigured human so it can fight for Maito, and the polymorphic soul is different than the transfigured human that he's used before. This one right here doesn't die part of the way through a fight, and they're able to pack a strong punch, powerful enough that it can send somebody like Todo flying all the way across the battlefield with an attack. But the price is that the trade-off for this overwhelming power is that they got extremely low durability, so if you can manage a hit, you're able to take them down. Now, taking things a step further, Maito can even unlock a stronger body for himself. Basically, think of this like the final boss level power-up that is the true essence of his soul. When in this state, his durability shoots up through the roof to the point to where not even Yuji Itadori, somebody who's a physical freak, not even Yuji is able to actually shake him with his attacks. When we see him use his power, Maito rips off his face and begins the transformation and becomes more powerful than he ever was before, proving why when you look at Sukuna's vessel that had 3 fingers ingested at one point in the story, that wasn't enough to actually put the work in on him. The only way you can make him release the transformation is to either dish out enough destructive force that he has no choice but to revert back to his original form, or he has to willingly change back to normal. Good luck with either one of those happening. However, even without his final form, Maito is still a really big problem to deal with. Not only is he one of the cursed spirits that can use domain expansion, but he also can pull off using Black Flash as well. His domain expansion allows him to connect to the souls or whoever's inside of it, and he can use his idol transfiguration abilities on them. That, when coupled with the fact that during the Shibuya incident arc, he was able to pick up on being able to use the Black Flash, Maito is a problem to face in battle for most Jujutsu sorcerers, evident by the fact that he's been shown speed blitzing Hanami and attacking Todo so fast and so hard that even somebody as powerful as Todo was on a flat defensive, and Mahito's Black Flash was able to dish out enough damage that Todo, despite the fact that he was focusing his curse energy, Todo took major damage from it, and Mahito in the Shibuya Instant arc was moving fast enough that he was able to more than keep up with a freaking nature like Yuji Itadori. Now, when we get to Dagon, the cursed spirit, who we saw alongside Maito and Jogo and Hanami in season 1 of the anime, during the Shibuya Instant arc, you should have noticed that he, like the others, improved a lot between the events of season 1 and season 2. During the Shibuya Instant arc, he was just as bloodthirsty as Jogo, and he was almost as cruel as Maito, which is a hard act to follow. He's capable of fighting all 3 high-level Jujutsu sorcerers at the same time, a very clear indication of his power. But the issue is that when it comes to that, he knows he's strong, and he has a tendency to be a little bit arrogant. However, he's also got really good reason to be arrogant because he isn't exactly weak. The fact that he squared off with the head of the Zanin clan in the Shibuya Instant arc is a nod to that fact. In battle, he's going to do quite a bit of damage when he starts producing extreme amounts of water, which allows him to shoot out sea monsters that can eat up anybody in his path. He's also able to suck back in all of the water and eat whatever humans are swept back in the water. He's produced enough water at one point during the Shibuya Instant arc that he flooded the whole section of the Shibuya station during that arc. Now, Hanami is one of those cursed spirits that you saw Gojo attempt to take out when he used the Hollow Purple after Yuji and Todo failed to defeat him during the battle in season 1 towards the end of the story. So he has disaster plants that allow him to create and manipulate and control nature. In particular, we've seen him control plants and roots and wood. However, whatever it is that he's created using his power, Hanami also has the ability to make it vanish on a mere whim, which adds another layer of difficulty when it comes to taking him down in battle. He's also shown the ability to shoot off curse buds at its targets that go into their body and force them to grow inside of his opponent whenever they use curse energy. And speaking of curse energy, another reason why he's so troublesome is the fact that this cursed spirit can also move through plants and erase his presence, which makes it really hard in order to try and peg him down when you try hunting for him. Now, Hanami's body is extremely durable and is something that you should have seen in season 1 of the anime when he withstood Yuji Itadori's Black Flash. But if he is dealt heavy damage, he also has the ability to regenerate and reinforce his body using curse energy. His flower field allows him to strip away the fighting spirit of whatever person he's fighting, but due to the effects of the flower field, it can be weakened depending on Hanami's physical condition. Finally, his domain amplification can be used in a pretty troublesome manner because when it first catches you in battle, that domain amplification is able to nullify and neutralize curse techniques, and that happens the moment it comes into contact with it, and it can also be manipulated so that it serves as a shield around his body. Now, moving on to the next set of special grade curse spirits, I figure why not stay in line with what you guys are really here for, which is the 3 vengeful spirits, which includes Sukuna from season 1 and Rika, who those you guys who watched Jujutsu Kaisen's movie, you're going to be aware of this character. So starting off with Sukuna, Sukuna gets referred to as the king of the curses for a really good reason. He's built different than any other curse spirit who we've covered in this video or who we're going to cover in the future. There's a reason why his 20 fingers are spread out. The dude is an absolute monster. Even though his current vessel Yuji doesn't have Sukuna's power yet, we've seen what happens when Sukuna's really able to cut loose. The moment that this man takes control of Yuji's body, bodies are liable to hit the floor, souls go to heaven or hell, and we saw that in the Shibuya Instant arc. Sukuna can collect the mountain of dead bodies very quickly once he gets free. Without much effort, he took down Jogo and Maharaga in very savage ways in the Shibuya Instant arc. If Maito is to be considered to be a sadist, Sukuna is the devil reincarnated. The sheer amount of his curse energy was massive enough that when he awakened in the Shibuya Instant arc, everyone became aware of it due to the overwhelming sense of evil nature of his curse energy being unleashed. Sukuna is powerful enough that so far in the story, the only people who are really strong enough to be able to put up a true fight against him are going to be Gojo and everybody's new favorite best boy, or at least he should be everybody's new favorite best boy, Yuta. Now, measurements of his power can actually be seen over time as his host Yuji Itadori gains more power. Early on in season 1, when he punches Megumi, he does it so hard that the man has rain droplets falling from the sky due to the impact of the attack. But by the Shibuya incident arc, Yuji has consumed a total of 15 fingers. Sukuna has become so strong that he's a walking cheat code. Take that scary power and add to it the genius of his mind and his sharp observation skills, and he becomes a whole monster whose only true weakness is the fact that he's really arrogant. And what's even scarier is that some of his attacks are so simple, but they're so simple that you really can't counter them. So a perfect example of this would be his dismantle and cleave fighting methods. They're very simple, but they're brutal and they're doubly effective. Dismantle is just an ordinary slash with enough force that it can harm cursed spirits and it can destroy inanimate objects. However, his cleave is a slash that adjusts its destructive output in proportion to the cursed energy of its target. In most situations, both of these are one-shot attacks, in particular his cleave. Now, if you're unfortunate enough to either force him to use domain expansion or you're unfortunate enough to be caught in this domain expansion, you're screwed because you're going to get hit by a variety of these attacks. So his domain expansion expands up to 200 meters and it will constantly slash and hack away at any and everything that's inside of it because it has no barrier around it. It does mean that there is a way for somebody to escape, but I want you to think about how far 200 meters is. And in a situation like that, that's asking for a whole lot for somebody to be able to run. Both the speed and agility needed to avoid those slashes and to cover that distance. Trying to escape Sukuna's domain expansion is like asking some regular gym rat to be able to survive 3 rounds in a ring with a trained boxer. You pretty much have no hope in succeeding in your goal, which is why when he uses it in the Shibuya incident arc, he cuts up everything that's caught within his domain expansion, which is so fitting for somebody that is as cruel as Sukuna is. He's even shown the ability to manipulate flames that burn hotter than anything Jogo was able to create, which is very impressive since Jogo was pretty much manipulating whole ass volcanoes. However, for as crazy as Sukuna is, we also have the Queen of Curses that you saw in Jujutsu Kaisen's movie, which is going to be Rika the Cursed Spirit. Rika was once the childhood friend of Yuta before she died in a tragic accident by being run over by a car, and after dying she became cursed. Rika possesses enormous amounts of cursed energy and it can take on pretty much the shape of any curse technique, and when she's manifested, she's easily able to rip apart cursed spirits that are in her path. When she's fully manifested, her power is absolutely insane. There's a reason why she was called the Queen of the Cursed Spirits. The highlight of her power, depending on how you look at it, is that cursed energy beam that she's able to shoot off using the strongest curse known to man, which is the Curse of Pure Love, which is strong that even Geto found himself saying like, yo, I'm on edge right now. And she can also use both jujitsu and physical attacks. Her second form of manifested state allows her to take on a much smaller form so she can physically help Yuta in battle, and when she does so, she's able to block attacks for him, she's able to cover his blind side, she can carry him, she can carry his allies. There's pretty much not much anything she can't do when she's in that second state. On top of that, Rika possesses the ability to copy curse techniques just as easily as somebody like Kakashi can copy ninjutsu when he uses the Sharingan in Naruto. At one point when she copied cursed speech, she was able to command cursed spirits around her to die, and they pretty much did just that. They burst in explosions and they died. The next cursed spirits that we're going to be discussing are going to be Tamina no Mai and Kuchisake Onna, which are the 2 cursed spirits that are controlled by Gito. So essentially, Tamino no Mai is pretty much useless during the one time that we saw it. However, Kuchisake Onna was pretty much far from useless. Kuchisake Onna could use scissors, which allowed her to create and control a giant set of scissors that float in the air that can cut off the limbs of her target. She's also able to make an innate domain that can lock her opponents inside of it until they answer the questions that she asks. If the answer that she hears isn't something that she wants to hear or particularly likes, then the domain expansion is dispelled and that nasty set of scissors that we just discussed will begin cutting away whoever's inside her domain. Finally, we have my least favorite set of special grades, which are going to be the Cursed Womb Death Painting Trio. However, even I can say that they've got nearly enough depth to them that they really need their own video. in order to fully go over them, which is why I can make the video if enough of you guys are actually showing interest in that topic. Now, getting to the trio Kechitsu, Eso, and Choso. Essentially, Kechitsu and Eso are those two that, for those of you guys who need a brief refresher, are the ones that Yuji and Nobara took on in season 1 of the anime. Both of these two have powers that make use of rotting abilities that rot away with anything that touches their blood. However, despite both of them having powers that are kind of similar, they're not the same in terms of effect. Esso's is way more potent and it's more versatile. Eso can shape his blood into wings, which can allow him to attack from a distance and gives him greater mobility. And once his target's been hit by the blood, he can start the decaying process. Now, the irony in this is that his decaying ability comes from the absolutely gorgeous design pattern on the body of his target, which is ironic given that rotting decay is the last thing you would associate with anything like beauty, which is a good touch for the author in terms of utilizing irony for the writing. And essentially the target's life is basically put on a timer once they've been hit by it. However, Choso is the one I think most of you guys are here for, at least when it comes to his trio, and out of the three of them, he's actually the most interesting one to me. So in terms of his power, he's easily more powerful than the other two. He's half human and he's half cursed spirit, but he doesn't have rotting powers like his brothers. However, his powers are still blood-based. His powers are blood manipulation, which allows him to fire off blood shots at insanely quick speeds with insane force behind them. However, he isn't just limited to blood shots, if you will. He can also make blood-based, more traditional type weapons like knives and swords, while also being able to rotate the blood within the knife and the sword in order to create a mini chainsaw. Now, the blood manipulation that he uses can also raise his blood cells' body temperature, and by doing so, he's able to actually boost his physical stats. However, that's where we're going to bring this video to a close. I try to go over the more interesting cursed spirits from season 1 and the ones that you'll be seeing show up in season 2 of the anime and what you saw in the Jujutsu Kaisen movie, because I know a lot of you guys might have questions or you're trying to brush up before season 2 of the anime and you just want a quick mini guide to the cursed spirits. So try to go in depth while also keeping this one as short as possible. But given the sheer depth of this video, this one's probably going to be a bit of a long one, and whoever edits this is probably going to be banging their head against the wall right now. However, let me know what topic you guys want me to cover in the future, and if I like it enough, I'll turn it into a video. But as always, guys, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching. Until then, have an awesome day, guys.